Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Give me the thumbs up. You're all muted. So to stop background music. Okay. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. And is there any pastors on? I'd like to open up in a prayer. If there's any pastors on the line, can you put it in the chat and we can have you open us up with a prayer? Did somebody raise their hand? No pastors?
Not yet, I haven't seen any.
Mike Rosedale is on. He's asked to be unmuted. You see Mike Rosedale? He'll open us up in prayer. See if I can do that.
There we go.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Heavenly Father, thank you for the chance to have a conversation like this. Thank you for Heather for bringing this information to our attention. And Lord, I pray that you would guide this conversation, that you would guide our legislature, guide our governor in what is right and true and honorable, what you would appreciate. And I pray that nothing but glory would be brought to you through this whole conversation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate everybody coming on. This is brand new format for me, but I have come to the conclusion that I cannot keep up with my phone calls, my emails, and I'm getting so many questions and the same questions over and over. So I hope tonight we can go over some things and answer questions for everyone. And I'm going to just start right in. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Heather Scott, State Representative for District 1. That's up in North Idaho. And I've been in office, I'm going on my 7th year. And hopefully my goal tonight with this call, and I think my goal I'm gonna do a lot more of these calls, is to just try to stick to state issues and what's going on down here and what's coming, and just kind of share what's going on. And so the calls have got to be limited to 100 people. And being as I think we had 90 some questions, or maybe I'm a little high on that, just from people emailing me, I think there's a lot of people that did not make the call. So if you can watch with a family member and you're using 2 computers, or you're using a phone and a computer, if you could just step off and let someone else join, that would always be appreciated. And then one more thing is I'm going to try to get to as many questions as possible. I'm going to try to not talk very long. And if you do have questions, we've had a whole bunch of them emailed in. I've got a really long list, thanks to Erin. She's put them in organized them for me in order. I will try to get to everybody's questions that I can tonight, and try to group them if possible. But I'd like to do some live questions too. So, and then we're still trying to learn how to, and I think we forgot to do it, is set up a live Facebook so we could record this so people could watch it later. So Erin, I don't know if you can play around in that, but we can probably do it next time. So
it'll automatically be recorded right now, so we can put it on Facebook later. It perfect. Just won't live stream at the same time as recording.
Okay, that's perfect. So I want to just start with a few basics that I always start with. And, you know, I believe our rights come from God, not government. And I believe that government is there to secure those rights. And I also believe that all power is in the citizens. And that is why I think it's so important that people know their rights, they exercise their rights, and they get involved and engaged in government. And that's what my hope or my goal is with these calls, that you're not just listening to someone tell you what's going on, or a speaker or something. I want you to be able to leave these calls with something that you can do to actually engage, because we are losing, I say we've lost our country and we are losing our state quickly. And so anything all power, I truly believe, is in the people, the individual person. And so the more you can do to help where you are will make a huge difference. And so, you know, with the growth here, we've had so many people moving to this state, and they think we're a conservative state. And then they start waking up and they said, wait a minute, this is the same thing that happened in California like 5 years ago. Don't do this, or don't set this regional government up, or don't do that. And so what people are learning is it is not a conservative state. For those of you who think that just because we have a Republican House, Senate, and governor, and that could be questionable, does not mean we have a conservative state. And I could give you all kinds of proof on that. We have Common Core just like all the other states. We have high gas taxes like all the other states. We kill thousands of babies a year like all the other states. And I think the big one, I think if you still think we're conservative, last year it came to my attention that we are doing surgery on little kids in our state to change their gender. We're cutting off their genitals at age 9 or 11. And this is happening in Idaho. And you can't even get the legislature to take up a bill to address it. So if you think it's a conservative state, think again. We are not a conservative state. We're just a little bit behind the times of all the other states, but we're headed in a bad direction. So that's kind of my little intro. And I'm going to get right to the topics that I sent out that I told you I'd talk about. And the number one topic of all the questions I've had are on guns and Biden's executive orders and what can we do? So first I'll just start and say, I think I've got a list now, thanks to Lynn, a volunteer. We have over 30 executive orders. And I do not see any on here on guns, but apparently Biden has made some comments that he wants Congress to take up gun legislation. And that's what we're all afraid of. They're coming for our guns. And I keep telling people, by the time they come for our guns, it's going to be too late. They're going to take everything else from us. Our guns are important. Idaho is everyone keeps saying, hey, can you guys pass that sanctuary state law like all the other states? And we passed that. It's called a Small Arms Protection Act. We passed that back in 2014. So we are ahead of the other states when it comes to guns. And the law is okay. It says that, let's see, if there's any gun control bills that come to Idaho, they're going to be null and void. And it's kind of similar to the marijuana laws, right? You know, where they're a sovereign state and they want marijuana to be legal and they don't care what the feds say. Well, we've said the same thing about guns. And I think the problem is the feds don't care. They don't care what our state law is. They are ultimately still going to come for our guns. I know the Ninth Circuit has ruled that parts of these types of laws are actually illegal. They say the Supremacy Clause, the Supremacy Clause can take priority or has more power than the actual law. And so we do have it is a misdemeanor on your, let's see, it's a misdemeanor on your first offense. I'm sorry, it's a civil infraction on your first offense. If a federal agent comes in and tries to take our guns, it's a civil infraction on the first offense, and then it's a misdemeanor after that. And I think I'm trying to read my notes here. It's a civil infraction. The second offense is a misdemeanor. And the problem that my sheriff says with that is they can't arrest a federal employee for a misdemeanor. And so, and now with the new law, I'm sorry, I messed that up. They cannot arrest a federal agent for a civil infraction. Now they could for a misdemeanor, but they have to witness it. So we do have that law in place. It's been in place since 2014, and it's just not it's not quite enough. Actually, I don't think anything's going to be enough, but it's not quite enough. So what we have now is we have a new gun law, and this, unfortunately, I left my whole packet of notes on this at the Capitol, but I'm going to just tell you what, it's being run by Christy Zitto, and what it does is it will protect elected official. It's setting up a 10th Amendment case. The lawyer that's worked on this bill is Alex Kincaid. And so she has set this up and set this law up in such a way that says, Idaho citizens, we need our guns. We need it for protection. We need it for several reasons, and we need these types of things for Idaho citizens. And so if you come in and try to take our guns, what this does is it sets it up for a lawsuit against the feds. And the bill also says that you can't get sued if you refuse to help the feds. So let's just say the feds come and decide they're going to take, you know, everybody in Kootenai County's guns or their AR-15s. If the sheriff says, hey, I'm not going to help you with that, and the police officers say, we're not going to help you with that, then then they cannot be sued. You know, there'll always be someone out there suing them because, so this protects your elected officials so they do not help the feds. What it also does is says that the AG must defend the law. Now, good luck with that, because as many of you who maybe have followed the AG, good luck with that. And so, but it also says if he won't follow the law, which we've had a problem with that, it says that then we can hire a lawyer that will defend the law from the legislature. So I'm not a total expert on this bill. It's a little complex because it's set up specifically, it's all legal language because Alex put it that way for a reason. The Idaho Second Amendment Alliance is the only group in Idaho that is working for your gun rights. You can just forget the NRA. Go to the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. They are the ones that will give you up-to-date information. They are the ones that when they have a legislator that is fighting or that will vote against your gun rights, they will run candidates against that people and take it out. So if you don't know about the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, I suggest you try to connect with that group, get in their website, and follow them to follow the gun stuff. So I'm going to move on to the next topic. The next topic is the language changes that I have seen come up this year. And if you got my newsletter, you've probably seen, and what they've done is they've changed, they're going through the code and they are changing the word shall in our, they started with the administrative rules. All through the rules, every time it says the word shall, they're removing it and putting must. And then in my one committee, so everywhere that it's a government, so it says the department shall, they changed the shall to will. So they say the department will. And then it says the department shall review. It says this department will review. They will draft. But every time in there, it talks about the citizens. The citizens must submit. The citizens must do this. They must. So they have selectively changed it. So anytime it's the citizens, it's strong language. And anytime it's government, sometimes they took the wording all out and restructured the sentences. It's the government will. And so some of my big concerns with this is, well, I've got lots of concerns with it. Because if you read my last newsletter, and if you didn't, I encourage you to go back and read it. You know, our Constitution uses the word shall. We understand what shall not be infringed upon. And what we have some judges saying is, well, shall doesn't really mean shall. Must is such a stronger word. So if it is a stronger word, they're putting stronger language in against the citizens, but they're undermining the language of our Constitution, our 10 Commandments, everything. And so Those of us who are Christians, we're probably not surprised. We know what's right's going to be wrong and what's wrong's going to be right. But that being said, if you care about what's left of the Constitution, this should disturb you. Now, this is all stemming from the governor's office. I have tracked this. I've got a long explanation, and I might just do a video on it. But 2 years ago, they had some college university come and say, hey, we've got this new program. It's going through all the administrative rules, and we're going to tell you how restrictive the language is. And if these are the 5 words to look for. And so I've gone through their study they did. And so they're doing it. And then you got the governor saying, hey, we're getting rid of those regulations, red tape reduction, BS. That's what I call that on that. So that's what's going on with the language changes, and it's disturbing. And the lawyers are, a lot of the lawyers, they're all mixed on it. So it's critical. What you can do about that is you talk to your legislators and say, I do not want the word shall changed in Idaho code. Because they're starting to put it in all the language of these new bills. You know, you send your idea to the legislative services, they draft up the bill, and you get it with a bunch of musts in it, and the shalls are all gone from the old code. So they are strategically doing this, in my opinion, to undermine our code and to undermine our Constitution. Okay, I'm going to move on to the third topic. The third topic I had was, why has the legislature not ended the emergency orders or addressed the governor's emergency control powers? I can't see the chat. So is anybody writing in the chats, Aaron? Or no? Yes.
Yep, there's a few questions in the chat. I've got them pegged for later.
Okay. So I don't know how to pull it up, so I probably just won't. So anyway, this is, we've been down here 6 weeks, and you know how much stuff has got done? Nothing. So the week before session, we were given 5 bills, and we were told these 5 bills are veto-proof bills, and the language will rein in the governor, and we have to pass them. And number one, I wasn't sure how they knew they were veto-proof because they had just introduced them to us. So I don't know how they were already knew they were veto-proof. And they said they reined in the governor, but when you read the language, it actually expanded the governor's powers. It didn't do anything to rein in the governor, and there were all kinds of other issues in these bills. But that's what leadership told us. And a lot of people, a lot of the freshmen early on committed, yep, I'll vote for the bill, I'm in. Well, that all happened, and we thought, you know, we tried to fix the changes as fast as we could. Well, now we're going on week 6, and none of these bills have been changed. Nothing's been fixed. And the only bill we got passed was a bill to put something on the Constitution that we can call ourselves back into session. And that passed through the House, and the Senate agreed. They said, if you do this and fix it like this, we'll vote in favor of it. We sent it over to the Senate, and guess what? All of a sudden, the governor's office and IACI. IACI is the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry. You should write that down. IACI, Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry. Them, along with the governor, are running this state. They are the big lobby group, the largest lobby group, 300 of the biggest lobbyists in Idaho. It's the big boys. It's Micron. It's the hospitals. It's all the big boys in our state. And I have a list of those from last year that I will share at some point, maybe on Facebook if we have some chat and move it there. I know we're all going to transition from there at some point, and that's a whole nother topic. But so IACI, literally, if you go to the Idaho Secretary of State's site and you look up your legislator, you can pretty much tell who's going to end the emergency and who's not going to end the emergency, because They own these legislators. I got a letter last week from IACI to the senators and to their businesses, basically telling them, hey, we don't like these bills to rein in the governor. And so this is what's going on behind the scenes down here. And then they invite leadership to come talk to their board of directors meeting. This is the crap that's going on, and they're all teaming up against the citizens, in my opinion. They are trying to cover their butts. The legislators want donations to get reelected in 2 years, and IACI is the source of those donations. Like, you can get 80 grand in a couple months because IACI can send you a check for 1,000, but then they can have their 300 people send you, their 300 businesses send you a check for $1,000. And that's how they're getting these bad people elected over and over that are not working for the citizens. And that's why we have, it's completely top down. And the governor's connected to the leadership, and the leadership in IACI, it's a cabal. That's what I call it. And I'm going to add one more little part to that. The governor is part of the Western Governors Association and the National Association of Governors. And they use your taxpayer dollars. I think it's like $70,000 in dues every year to pay the Western Governors Association. Now, the Western Governors Association, I'm sorry, the National Governors Association, guess who they have a new partnership with? The World Economic Forum. If you get my newsletters, the Great Reset talks about the World Economic Forum. It's the globalists that are basically running the governors. And so I would encourage you to go read that, the Great Reset, if you get a chance to read that, so you understand that's the 100,000 foot view of what's going on. They are the ones that came out with COVID, and they are the ones that are coming out with a cyber attack next. They just said COVID's going to be nothing compared to the cyber attack coming. So these are the big boys, and they're trying to rein in a new era, a new economy, and Bill Gates is involved, and he's connected to our state, but I don't have time to get into that tonight either. So I'm going to hit on one last topic, and then we can open it up for questions. And so the last thing I have is domestic terrorism, insurrection, and what will Idaho legislators do to protect your First Amendment rights so you won't be prosecuted as a criminal for having an opinion? This is serious stuff. So right now, they can call you a domestic terrorist, but unless you have ties to Al-Qaeda or an international organization, they cannot arrest you as a domestic terrorist. So they can say, oh yeah, 3%ers or John Birch or Republicans, they're all domestic terrorists, but they cannot hold you indefinitely or prosecute you because there's not that tie. Well, that's a federal State Department at the federal level. They're the ones that say they have to have the tie. The Biden administration says he's going after domestic terrorists. The concern is they are going to get rid of that international tie to call you a domestic terrorist. And what that will do is that will make every single person that says something they don't like a domestic terrorist. It will destroy free speech in our country. Right now, under the last, this has been going on since the Obama administration. So domestic terrorism and homegrown violent extremists, you can get this from the Department of Homeland Security. You can also find it on the FBI. They've got a list of who they think's terrorists: animal rights extremists, anti-abortionists, environmental rights extremists, racist, sovereign citizens. So they have their lists that they've been using, but they cannot prosecute you. And so that being said, this is critical because a lot of these 5 bills that the leadership said, oh, we have to do to rein in the governor, they had terms in them like terrorism. So this is critical that Idaho gets its own definitions and we protect our Idaho citizens for their free speech. Now, we just had a guy up in North Idaho get arrested for going to Washington, D.C. Now, I do not know the details on that yet. I don't know if he did something bad there or if he just went to protest, but he's been in charge with on insurrection. This is a huge problem because we are allowed to redress our government or we can go to our government for our grievances. We don't have to agree with everything government says or does. And so, but they are going to start tightening the screws on American citizens and free speech. You know that just by the way they throw around the word domestic terrorist. Everybody's a racist if you don't agree. If you believe in traditional family values, you're white nationalist, terrorist, whatever. So this is critical that you talk to your legislators and say, hey, I want you to protect my freedom of speech and my gun rights. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Now, there's lots of bills down here that we have. So you do have some legislators down here working for you. They will not hear our bills. They basically put them in committee drawers. There's a bill to stop forced vaccinations. There's a bill to stop. There's a bill to stop abortion. These bills are locked in committee drawers. There's also a bill that would do something with the executive orders, like a state sovereignty bill, where we get to look at the executive orders as a state. The problem is you do not have a majority of legislators down here in Boise that are fighting for you. And I today, many of us are just fed up. Starting today, we've just had enough of this because it's coming like a freight train, and I don't think the people in Boise get it. They're living their little fantasy world, and they're all wearing their masks. I don't know if they can't think straight, they're breathing in too much carbon dioxide or what, but it is coming like a freight train, and we have got to protect ourselves as Idaho citizens from what's coming. So that was a lot, and I'm done. 30 minutes, which is pretty good. And I want to open it up for questions. I have some questions. I might run through maybe five questions real quick, and then we'll open it up for live. So someone asked, this is Steve. He said, will the Idaho legislature keep red flag laws out of our state? It is doubtful. They continually try to push red flag laws. They have Marcy's Law. Have you heard of Marcy's Law? And it comes through every year, the last 3 or 4 years. And they say, oh, it's all about the victims. We're so concerned about the victims. And we got to put this in the Constitution. There are so many red flag laws. Idaho Second Amendment Alliance catches these bills and pushes back on them. They are the only ones that are catching them. So I suppose we'll have more. I think it was a super close vote last time. So they could pass it with a simple majority. So yeah. Steve asked about education, question about critical race theory being taught at our colleges and our schools. And that's something we are aware of. Some of us are. Right now, we're trying to just separate the budget so we can look at what they're actually spending the money on, because they're charging these kids, they're forcing these kids to take this nonsense classes and indoctrination. They're doing this tunnel of oppression at this college down there, where they make the white people go through a tunnel and they yell out racial slurs at them and freak these people out. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. I would not send my kids to college. I would find another route. These colleges are complete indoctrinations anymore. And I feel the same way about public schools, unfortunately. So yeah, we are aware of that. I think we could probably do a whole show on that. And I need to find an expert that might be able to do something on that. Free and fair elections. We got a whole bunch of bills that are coming. I see a thumbs up from a county clerk on there. So the Secretary of State's run a lot of election bills. There's a lot of election things. We've been talking about them, but nothing's really solid got through yet. I'm not going to get into detail on that, but maybe we'll do, maybe that'll be one of the things for next week. What can we do to defeat Simpson's bill to breach the dam? That guy's been in there way too long. I keep telling people elections have consequences, and it's unfortunate. Combat free speech. Okay, I guess I'll just say one more thing and then we'll open up for questions. You know, the government's not going to fix this. They're not going to pass a law that's going to fix this all. It's only going to be the people that are going to fix this. So we can pass bills all day long. They violate the Constitution all the time. I don't know what to say. Stop putting your hope in government and let's start trying to replace our local elected officials. Go to the libraries, clean out the smut in our libraries. County commissioners, every position is critical, not just county commissioners, but your school boards. Even if you don't have kids in school, get on that school board and say no more levies. They don't even want to go back to school to teach the kids. That's why there's all this struggle right now, because the teachers' unions want the teachers to be able to teach from home and not have to go into the school and just Zoom it. And I had to talk to a guy the other day who said he sat in on his kid's class and the lady was sitting, the teacher was like sitting on the couch, drinking coffee, and she read him a book for 20 minutes. And they said the next day she was making a smoothie in the class in front of all the kids. So there are so many options for schooling. I encourage people to get your church to open your churches up 5 days a week for homeschool co-ops and start doing something in your community local so these kids get a real education. Okay, I'm going to stop, take a breath, take a drink, and open it up. Erin, it's all yours.
Okay, so I'm just going to start at the top and work my way down. And so there may be some questions that you can't answer, but I just don't want to miss anything. So the first one is, which is supreme, the Constitution or the Supreme Court? And then if it's the Supreme Court, the federal or the state?
So it goes like this: God's law, then the Constitution of the United States, then the Idaho State Constitution, and then under that is Idaho law, under that's Idaho code, and I don't know where the proclamations and orders, but it's somewhere all under that. And any code or ordinance or whatever that violates a higher law should be void and should be void. And so a lot of this mask mandates, everybody's trying to get around it or say they didn't well, the governor's like, I didn't say you had to wear a mask in the health district. Everyone's trying to separate themselves from it, but ultimately it's the people that are enforcing it on each other. It's the people that are complying so they don't offend some lady that's going to freak out at them at the grocery store and scream at them. We need to really push back on that, because we are participating in a crime, a violation of our rights. I don't know if that answered the question. And do we want to let the people ask the questions, or do we want to? How do you want to do it, Erin?
There's 100 people on, so maybe it's just for time constraints. Maybe we'll just keep doing it the way, and then maybe we'll work on something for next time.
Okay.
So Rose asks, how do we vet judges that are not elected, the ones that are appointed?
I don't know. We, you know, the legislature, I say it's a neutered legislator. I know that's kind of harsh, but we don't even know our power, but we have some power to have oversight on the courts and the judges. And right now we have the Supreme Court is violating people's rights, telling them if they don't wear a mask, they're in contempt of court. Do you think you're going to get a fair trial from that? I don't know how you vet the judges, except you get people you get a better governor that's appointing better judges. You know, you have to have whoever's appointing those judges be a better person. And we don't have that, and we haven't had it. And I might not know the answers for everything. I'll just do the best I can. So.
All right. Speaking of power, Wendy asks, what's the status of the health district's power?
So that bill is locked in a committee drawer. There's a bill to try to rein them in a bit. Fred Wood will not hear any bills about vaccinations or the health districts or anything. The health districts are weird because they're a regional government, and they're kind of accountable to all different types of people. And it's like the legislature has some control. The county commissioners have some, they fund them, the feds fund them, they're listening to the CDC. So I forget the question.
What's the status of their power? How do we get away from that?
Fred Wood, call Fred Wood. He's the committee chairman. He's been in for, I think, 22 years, and maybe 18. He will not hear the bill. He will not hear any bills that have anything to do with health freedom or freedom choice when it comes to anything with vaccinations or medical stuff. And ultimately, leadership appoints those chairmen, and that's his buddy. They live in the same district. That's another. Elections have consequences.
Okay, right now, how many positions do you think have non-conservative legislators occupying them?
So in the Senate, I think you probably have 3 conservatives, 3 out of 35. So you can pretty much bet your senator needs replaced. In the House, I'll say this, Democrats are a lot of times better than Republicans that aren't looking out for your interest, because the Democrats, no one listens to them because they're the minority party. So if you're in a swing district, you know, but I would say there's probably maybe 20 legislators in the House side that are actually maybe 20 to 25 that are actually will vote right. But I'd say of those, maybe 10 of them will actually fight for you. And there's a difference. You can vote right all day. And you know what? You can come back to your district and say, I voted right and I got a great score. But if you don't fight for the people, you still lose down here. Because nobody, the minority of the legislators are fighting for the citizens' rights. The rest of them are going along to get along. They want a position, they want to be invited to dinners, they want lobby money. There's lots of reasons. They stroke their egos when they get down here too. So chances are your legislators probably, I can give you a better, we can go into that later, but without naming names on the publicly here.
So the people have spoken, they want to ask their questions themselves, but I'll do that in a minute. Just one more question and then we'll open it up. What is the bill number for Christy Zito's bill that you were talking about?
I left it at work. So it doesn't have a bill number yet. So before it becomes a bill, the draft is called an RS, a routing slip. So it does not have a bill number yet, and it hopefully they give her a hearing so she can get a bill number. This is the struggle that we run into. They won't give you a bill number. They won't hear your bill. I think there's enough gun owners in this state that when they get a no, a hard no, they're gonna get the bill heard somehow, some way. So they're working on that. Sign up for Idaho Second Amendment Alliance's newsletters, and they will keep you up to date on that. But don't forget, other than the guns, I mean, we're losing everything else. We're losing our kids. The thing is, they might not even have to come for the guns. By the time our kids are all raised up and, you know, the next generation, they're going to be petrified of guns. So teach the youth. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna open it up to some live questions. Everyone is muted, so if you have a question, raise your hand, or I don't know if it's like ask permission to be unmuted, and then I will do it when I see your hand raised.
Oh, Lord. I see that one. I see it here. Can you do it?
I am not seeing it. I know that there were some hands raised, but now they're all gone. What happened to it?
Okay, I saw Tunnel Lord 1337.
Oh, okay. And then I see Bev after, so we'll just do it. Okay, here comes Tunnel Lord. Tunnel Lord, are you on? Maybe. Tunnel Lord, I know you're unmuted.
Okay, moving on.
All right, so I'm going to mute him for a second. Tunnel Lord, if you're back, just raise your hand again. So we'll go to Bev and then Dr. SH. So Bev, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. I'm just wondering what we can do when we continually have our government officials going against constitutional law. It seems that the problem is no one is ever held to account for what they're doing. There is no accountability. And if we don't get that somehow, I don't think anything's going to change. What can we do?
Well, in the past, I would think like you could go to court, right? Well, you're not going to get a fair trial at the courts these days. They're already violating your rights. So I think you have to make them very uncomfortable in their position. You have to make it, so if it's your legislators doing this, you need to bring it to the attention to everyone in their district. You need to vocalize it. You need to go door to door and knock and educate. And then you need to find good candidates to step up and be willing to run against these people. There's so much crap that some of these people do, and it's like they never have an opponent. So they, people like, well, I don't care. The people are like, I got a whole bunch of dirt on this legislator. Well, you know what? That's great. But if nobody wants to step up and run against them, it's really a waste of time. So we have to get out of our comfort zones, and we need to start engaging at all levels. And we, if it takes dropping flyers in your neighborhood or going door to door and educating people, we got to do it because we don't have much time left. And if you go to my repheatherscott.com, I have 110 things you can do to start making a difference in Idaho. And there's some things on there you can do. You can help a good candidate, or you can, help the opponent of a candidate. So we have to replace these people. First you got to find out, maybe they don't know they're doing it, right? But most of them probably know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bev. All right, Tunnel Lord is back. So we're going to unmute him, and then we're going to do Dr. SH. And then Rose, I see your hand up, so I'll get you next. So here comes Tunnel Lord. Are you on this time? There we are.
Hello. All right. There's a big problem and a misconception I think everyone has, regardless of where they are, whether they're in government or they're the people. If you read Fellows Paper number 78, there is no position which depends on clear principles, and that every act of a delegated authority, contrary to the tenure of the commission under which it is exercised, is void. No legislative act, therefore, contrary to the Constitution, can be valid. To deny this would be to affirm that the deputy is greater than his principal, that the servant is above his master, that the representatives of the people are superior to the people themselves. That men acting by virtue of powers may do not only that what their powers do not authorize, but what they forbid. It's one of the, in my opinion, I think it's one of the cases that if anything they do is against the state constitution or the Constitution, it's null and void. I mean, you don't even have to comply with it. Marbury v. Madison even is one of those cases that addresses that issue or that idea. That's all I have to really say.
And I understand what you're saying. It's just when you have people that are going to enforce it anyway, that's where you run into trouble. That's where you run into conflict. And so, I mean, we've let it get really bad. And so we have to educate people for sure.
Okay, it looks like Dr. SH has dropped off. So I don't know what happened to that person. They're just not on the call at all. So I'm going to go down to Rose. She had her hand up. So Rose, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. My question deals with the judges. We recently had an appointment made by Governor Little, and I use the term governor with very little weight. Anyhow, he brought up Lamont Perez out of Valley County, who was also on the Idaho Judicial Council. Lamont Perez was directly or indirectly responsible for the death of 3 individuals when Jerry Lee Nehar was before him for multiple times for intoxication issues. Perez, instead of being disrobed and removed as a judge, was given a promotion and sent up here to 1st District. How do we stop this type of action? We already have Judge Buchanan, who hates the Constitution, and now we have Judge Perez, who apparently believes he's not, that he's far above the law, that he holds the rest of us to.
You know, these governors that we are electing in this state, Governor Little was elected by the Democrats. He's going to be reelected by the Democrats. That is the problem. I mean, that is the problem. And the problem is he's got an R after his name, so all the legislatures will not stand up to him when he's not following Republican principles. And so, I don't know, we need better governors that make better appointments. It's corrupt as can be. And it's, you know, I know a lawyer from Chicago, and he said, I used to think Chicago was one of the most corrupt places, but Idaho is so corrupt. And it is. It's a good old boys corrupt system. And we just have to expose and push back. And I think the big thing we need to do is we need to be on our knees daily praying for this state and for God to expose this stuff to others, because we can't do this on our own. It's bad. It's really bad. And so I don't have a great answer, Rose, but thanks for your question.
Thank you.
All right, so it looks like Tunnel Lord has another question. If you guys have a question, there is a little icon that you press to raise your hand. I can't tell you exactly where it is because my screen looks a little bit different than everyone else's, but there is a little hand somewhere on there where you can raise it to ask a question. So Tunnel Lord, you are now unmuted.
Hello, is this working? Yes, okay. To address the issue with enforcement, well, we need to go to each of our sheriffs respectively and ask them what their stances are on a lot of subjects and see whether or not they will enforce. Now, if they say they will enforce, well, then we, the people, need to watch each other's backs. We can't just, if someone's getting arrested or fined or whatever it may be, people need to stand up. There was a case, I think in New York specifically, where some health inspector was coming in to an individual business who didn't have any masks or were following anything like that. And other people there stood up with the business owner and essentially shouted out the deputy along with the health inspector. And they were asserting their rights. I can think of John Jay's quote that everyone, let me just scroll up and see if I can get to it. Yeah, here we go. Every member of the state ought to diligently to read and study the Constitution of his country and to teach the right generation to be free. By knowing their rights, they will sooner perceive when they are violated and be better prepared to defend and assert them. That's what it is. People need to prepare to do that.
Thank you. And you're right. People don't even know their rights. They just don't even know their rights.
Oh, is this still on?
There we go. It's muted now. I gotcha. All right. So Robert Fisher, you are now unmuted to ask your question.
Well, before I do that, I just wanted to, I wasn't really sure if Representative Scott, you and the others were aware as you're down there battling for the citizens that not everyone is just got their head in the sand. People are really trying to, I mean, your worth is the weight of gold. I mean, we are so lucky to have representatives, although so few, but who are standing up for everything. But and now I was going to ask a question because I actually do hear people with respect to the election, the national election, saying, oh, that there's this theory that somehow behind the scenes there's going to be martial law and they're going to round up all the Democrats, which I think is ridiculous. But because I heard someone saying that if there really was martial law, I mean, I don't know if this is it really possible that there could be martial law announced? Because I heard if they did, they would go through and the entire country and grab everyone's guns. Is it possible that our sheriff could be superseded by a martial law dictate in the future at some point?
Heather, you're on mute.
Sorry, I do not have an answer for that, Robert. I don't know. I see, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. I know they're not taking North Idaho's guns though.
All right, Mike Donnelly, you are up.
Can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me? Okay, so this is actually Jerry Gloop. Mike Donnelly is my husband. We live in Cascade. I did send a email. What's going on with the with the impeachment? I guess that didn't go through or wasn't recognized per Mr. Christensen. And so if that's the case, are we going to move to a recall or what should people do? Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. So a recall is by the citizens and impeachment would be by the legislators. And so the recall was tried this summer and they could not get enough signatures, which I think just empowered the governor even more. And so there is articles of impeachment. The legislature can impeach, just like, which means try Governor Little for the violations he's done to the Constitution. And the problem is it's really hard. You can't even get enough votes down here for good bills or to stop bad bills. So a lot of people will not stand up to the governor because they're afraid of retribution or they're afraid that IACI won't support them in the next election. And so you're not going to get a lot of people coming forward that will push that. Number one, they'll probably won't even give him a hearing on that bill. And so the other thing is they've never impeached Idaho governor before, so they don't know how to do it, quite frankly. And so you would need leadership to be on board with that. And our leadership is definitely not on board with that. So I don't see that that's a viable option. I see that there's going to be a lot of people stepping up to run against him the next time, and unfortunately, he's going to get all the Democrats vote in the primary. You got to educate people to vote in the primary. It's critical they come out and vote. So I do not see it as a realistic way, because I just don't see a path forward through the legislature with the people we have in position.
Thank you.
Okay, great. We only have a few more minutes. So Patrick, Phil, and then I see Ford Farm is waving their hand physically. So I'm going to get to them third. So Patrick, you are now unmuted. Patrick, are you there? Well, okay, I'm gonna mute him for a second. Patrick, if you come back, let me know, raise your hand again. So Phil, I'm going to unmute you now. Phil, you are ready to go.
Heather, Idaho does not stand alone. There are 50 states, and there are others like us throughout the 50 states. Is there any effort underway so that each of the groups, each of the states can get together, because there's safety in numbers and there's power in numbers? If we could link with all the other states, it'd be something I would be for. It would be something I would contribute to as far as donation wise. Is there any effort like that under the way, or can we start one?
I'm not aware of any effort of that. Most of these governors across the country are owned by the National Governors Association, like we talked about in the beginning. So I don't know what state you're talking about, maybe North Dakota or South Dakota, but that's the only one I'm aware of. Government teaming together is not going to fix this. States teaming together, I don't believe is the answer either. I think the only answer is for us as individuals to start doing what we're supposed to be doing for 100 years now that we haven't been doing. So I know we all want an easy fix, and we want we want government to fix it, but I don't think they're going to fix this. I just don't see it. Sorry.
Okay, it looks like Patrick is back, so I'm going to unmute him. Patrick, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes. There we
Okay,
go.
good. My question is, when does Governor Little have consequences for banning hydroxychloroquine, and consequently people died during that period from March to June, when they knew very well that that was a good therapeutic? Also, I have another question, and the question is, how long do we keep supporting these complicit newspapers in our districts, like the Idaho Press and the Idaho Statesman, who are run by the Associated Press? Why do we keep buying them? Why do we keep getting those papers and paying their way to bring this crap into our state? Those are my questions.
Hey, thank you. I do not subscribe or buy any of those. I haven't given the papers a dime since like my first year I ran, then I decided I don't want the paper. I don't want to support them at all. So I don't advertise in papers. Only a certain type of paper, but no local papers. And as for the hydroxy, the guy's so arrogant. They're coming after doctors' licenses that actually tried to prescribe it during that time, which is really sad. But I think he is not immune. If somebody would file a lawsuit against him, I think that might be an option. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to hold these people accountable. I just don't know. They are super well connected and surrounded with money and powerful people and these big corporations. And for those of you who haven't read that Great Reset, Governor Little is shutting down these businesses and trying to shut down because he wants the corporations to thrive. They want to put these little mom and pops out of business. This is part of the World Economic Forum's plan, and it's critical you understand their end game so you know what's coming. It's just not, it's not going to get better. I talked to a guy, he called me today, he found out about this, he's from Colorado, and he was telling me he working on a vaccination pass for different countries for traveling. And he said 2 new strains came into the country this week, and that COVID would not be gone until the year 2024. So this is definitely orchestrated. It's not like we're going to wake up or we're going to pass a bill or we're going to take the governor to court and, you know, get him on hydroxychloroquine. It's not going to happen. We're not going to just do this and it's all going to be fixed. It's going to take a lot more than that. And I hope it doesn't take blood, but I'm beginning to wonder. And at that, I think we made it our full hour, and I'm sorry some people had questions we didn't get to. Thank you for joining us. Do you guys like this format? Should we do this again? You want to try it again next week? Thumbs up. Okay, we'll see if some exciting things happen this week and we'll report next week. So thanks for joining. I really appreciate all you, and hopefully we can just do what we can do in our own spheres and continue to pray for this country and this state. So thank you. Have a good night. Bye.